the first thing I'll do is to share with you the link in the chat, which you can just click on it, and it will take you to the website. That's the first thing we are going to do. So we're just going to be slow today so that all of us understand really what is happening in the gig economy. So let me share my link. So I hope all of us have clicked on the link. So when you click on the link, this is what you see. That is the GIZ. The course is about shaping the gig economy and understanding the regulatory and potential risks and opportunities that the gig economy provides. And as I've told you, for those who are joining now, the gig economy is a labor market whereby people get jobs for a specific time and for specific money. So these people work for the gig economy are not recognized as employed people. Most of them are recognized as employed people. And the word gig comes from the entertainment industry, where a musician would get a gig, go perform, and it ends at that point. And then they're paid for that specific job they have done. But because of the penetration of technology, we've had a lot of platforms emerging that provide job opportunities for different people in different continents. So there are two types of gig work. We have the crowd work, then we have the work on demand. So crowd work is where you request for a job to the platform and you work remotely. So most of you have worked with Upwork, with Canvas. Those are the kind we're talking about. So most of the platforms that provide crowd work are usually located in the global north, but they use cheap labor from the global south. Then the work on demand location is also gig work, but in this specific scenario, you request your work from the internet, but then you work on a specific location. So for instance, those who work for Uber, Bolt, Glovo, the food delivery platforms, they'll get the ride through the platforms, but they have to deliver the food somewhere else. So that is the on location. So I would say that the gig economy is providing a lot of not only job opportunities, but also it's very critical for economic development, competition within the platforms as well, because as an entrepreneur, as a business, we'll have an opportunity to also come up with their own platform and provide job opportunities. But then it also comes with its own challenges. And one of the biggest challenge has been how to ensure that those who work for these digital labor platforms are able to enjoy better working conditions. So let's talk about a rider who is delivering food from the city center somewhere, and they get an accident. Who covers them? The digital platforms will tell you that they act as mediators to provide job opportunities connecting clients and workers. So they don't have an obligation to provide this kind of social security or safety nets. So those are the things we are going to talk about. So when you look at this that we are talking about, so this program is for everybody. It's not just for the elites or those who focus on employment law, competition law, lawyers, businesses. It's for everybody, because at the end of the day, we have our people who are working for these platforms, and would like them to have a decent pay, and would like them to enjoy exactly what they're doing. So these are the experts that I've been working on. You can see my face there representing the Global South. And we have a number of modules. I will not go into detail because Daudi is going to tell us exactly what is happening in these specific models. But then you'll be asking yourself, why are we really interested in the gig economy? And what are some of the regulatory approaches that different countries have undertaken? So for a long time, many countries had not given a special consideration to the gig economy. And that's why I just want to briefly look at Module 2, which looks at some of the regulation approaches that different countries have looked at. Just to tell you that this is not theoretical, this is very, very practical. So if you want to do any of the courses, that is the first one, the introductory one that gives you an overview of the rise of digital labor platforms. Digital labor platforms, we are talking about platforms that provide jobs, because we have a lot of platforms. Somebody will talk about Facebook, because in a number of guest lectures I've done, people think like, oh, if somebody is selling a product on Instagram, is that not a job? No, in that capacity, you are acting as a business person. So the person who delivers your product, the one that you're selling on Instagram to your customer, is the person we are focusing on today. That's what we are calling the gig worker. So that is Module 2. We are just going to look at it. And then Module 3, it will focus on the different platform works. Module 4 looks at the fair and decent work for gig workers, issues to do with security, wage, do they get the minimal wage that other workers should get. And then Module 6, very critical for data, because data is a very important component of digital markets. When a platform that has data has a competitive advantage over other platforms, because it has the ability to use this data to provide different consumer preferences. And sometimes when new platforms are entering into the market and they don't have access to data, then they're not able to compete in this specific data, because data is like fuel for the digital economy. And another characteristic of these digital markets that I always talk about is an aspect we call the network effects that most digital platforms enjoy. So in this aspect, you find that network effects simply means that the value of a platform increases when certain users are on that platform. So for instance, if it's the ride-hailing app like the Uber, the Bolt, drivers would want to go where there's traffic, where there are many consumers, and consumers want to be on an app whereby they can get many drivers as possible. So you find even when other platforms, like in the case of Kenya, we have platforms like Yego, Safari, Maramoja, and so on enter the market, but most consumers are not found on that platforms, even when they provide better working conditions, lower commissions for the drivers will find themselves just working for two or few platforms, because that is where the consumers are. And that is how these platforms gain what we call in competition law market power. And once they have this market power, then they can exploit the vulnerable workers the way they want. So that is the importance of Module 5. And then Module 6, which is about competition in the age of digital platforms. I'm going to have a session on Thursday discussing this specific module, whereby we look at some of the competition issues that digital labor platforms are likely to engage in. Then we have the issue of taxation. Who taxes the legal labor platforms? Do you tax the legal labor platforms, or do you also tax the consumers who are using this platform? Do you tax the drivers, and so on? And then the question of the women in the gig economy. So how can we increase the participation of the women in the gig economy? So I just wanted to briefly look at this module. So you just click on the module, and once you click on the module, you get the details of the specific module. So if this is the module you wanted to do, and it's good to start with each module. So if this is the module you want to do, you just scroll down, and sorry, it seems I've already done this module. So there's a place you click for you to start the module, and then you register for the module. So for instance, in session 1 of this module, when you click on it, we give you the experts that worked on this specific module, made sure that these modules are very concise for everybody. Even for those who did not join high school, you are more likely to do this because it's very, very simple. So when you look at this, at the regulatory approaches that different countries have undertaken. So I just wanted us to see some of these approaches that different countries have undertaken before we move to Daudi. Okay, it was somewhere. So another thing to note, we have these specific cards. For example, this one's tried to define. So once you just click on it, it gives you very, very concise information on exactly what the benefits or what does non-standard kind of workers look like. So we want to look at, okay, this should be number 3 on some of those regulatory approaches that different countries have undertaken. Just a minute. So here we go. So you see like this kind of a map that gives you information on what different countries have done. So if you look at it, you find that not so many countries have given attention to the regulation of the gig economy, despite the development of this economy in different countries. So here we have Brazil. Brazil is considering to introduce a law that recognizes food delivery platforms as workers. You know, the classification of gig workers is very important. If you are classified as an employed person, you benefit from employment law and you also benefit from competition law, in the sense that under competition law, collective bargaining agreements between employees and employers are not considered as cartels. Therefore, those kind of collective bargaining agreements that seek to improve the working conditions of the employees are exempted from the application of competition law. So gig workers that are considered as unemployed people, they do not benefit from this labor exemption. So even when they have they are protesting against high commission rates, against low pay, against insecurity, they cannot engage in collective bargaining agreements with the platforms in order to improve their working conditions. So you see, the UK is one of the countries that recognize that Uber drivers are employees. And one of the things they looked at is the issue of the control test. So employees are usually controlled by the people they work for, but self-employed people have independence, they have the flexibility, and gig work in itself is meant to be a working relationship whereby you enjoy the independence and the flexibility. But we've realized that in some instances, these workers do not enjoy that kind of flexibility and that kind of independence that workers should engage in. So you click here. Nigeria is one of the countries that has taken some measures. But in regard to this one that happened in Lagos, there was a regulation that was supposed to be developed to regulate the ride-hailing companies in Lagos in order to obtain a license. So we don't know what the development is. We'll be following up on this kind of development. But Nigeria is one of the first countries in Africa that has registered Online Drivers Association as a trade union, allowing them to collectively bargain with Uber or Bolt or other platforms within the market for better working conditions. And then Spain came up with a law in 2020 called the Ride Law, which explicitly considers food delivery platforms, workers, and ride-hailing apps. When you talk about apps, you're simply talking about the Uber, the Bolt, Lola.